On a warm New Year's Eve in Miami, under a sky exploding with gold and red fireworks, a billionaire who had spent years hiding behind success finally found himself standing on the edge of something he had never expected. Christopher Blackwell, polished, guarded, and always in control, held the hand of the woman who had turned his entire world upside down in just a few days. Beside him stood Emma Hayes, a waitress from Chicago who had no idea how extraordinary she was. She felt painfully out of place in the luxury of the Blackwell estate, surrounded by elegance that didn't belong to her. Every glance from strangers reminded her she didn't fit. Every polite smile from his family raised new doubts in her heart. Yet, in the final seconds before midnight, with the crowd counting down and the ocean shimmering behind them, something inside her broke free. She turned to him, voice trembling, and confessed the words she'd been terrified to say. "I love you." And right as the world erupted into a new year, he whispered it back. Not hesitating and not questioning, he just loved her with the certainty of a man who had finally found the missing piece of his life. But Emma didn't know that behind them, his mother watched quietly, thoughtfully, worried about what this unexpected love might mean for her son and for the future of the Blackwell family. To understand how a rejected blind date turned into this breathtaking moment, we need to go back to where everything began. Christopher Blackwell sat alone in Billionaire, a softly lit Italian restaurant, glowing with golden Christmas lights that turned every table into its own warm little world. Outside, snow drifted through the Chicago air like confetti from a celebration he had not been invited to. Inside, couples leaned close, families laughed loud enough to drown out the music, and friends clinked glasses as if loneliness was a myth. But at Christopher's table, the only thing keeping him company was the empty chair across from him, staring back like a quiet reminder of the night he wished he wasn't spending alone. He rechecked his phone. 9:20. Still nothing. No message, no call, no apology. Madison, the seventh blind date in 2 weeks, had vanished without a trace. His secretary had sung praises about her. A corporate lawyer, Harvard-educated, sophisticated, ambitious, the epitome of the kind of woman who fit neatly into the life he had built. Yet she had not shown up, not even for the formality of rejection. Christopher rubbed his temple, fighting the embarrassment pressing against his ribs. 7 dates, 7 disasters. One woman had cried about her ex for an hour. One had brought a secret dog. One had ordered the most expensive dishes and then said she felt no spark. He kept trying because Christmas Eve was the one night he refused to spend in silence. He wanted a companion, not someone to complete him, but someone to share a moment with. So he didn't wake up alone on Christmas morning again. Around him, the restaurant buzzed with the kind of energy that makes a lonely person feel like they've wandered into the wrong universe. A toddler in reindeer pajamas giggled as her father pretended the breadstick was a magic wand. A couple exchanged a quick kiss when they thought the waiter wasn't looking. A group of friends cheered the arrival of their spaghetti as if it were a trophy. Christopher watched with the quiet ache of someone who wanted to belong to a moment like that, but could never seem to find the doorway into it. He straightened the silverware out of habit, caught himself doing it, and forced his hands still. He hated how waiting made him feel. Out of control, exposed, vulnerable in a way no business deal, no boardroom negotiation, no corporate crisis could ever make him feel. At work, he was decisive, direct, and respected. Here, in matters of the heart, he was just another man hoping someone would choose him. The door opened and his pulse quickened for a second, only to fall flat when a laughing family walked in. He wasn't angry at Madison, just tired. Tired of trying so hard. Tired of believing the next date could be different. Tired of wanting something so simple and being met with silence. He lifted his water glass and took a slow sip, letting the coolness ground him as he considered whether it was time to give up and leave. But leaving felt like losing, and staying felt like prolonging the humiliation. He hovered in that indecisive space where pride and hope fought quietly beneath the surface. Maybe Madison had an emergency. Maybe her phone had died. Perhaps she had mixed up the times. He wanted to believe those things, but deep down he knew the truth. People who cared, even a little, sent a message. People who cared didn't disappear for an hour and 20 minutes. He rechecked the time. 9:21. Outside the window, snowflakes drifted beneath the street lamp, glowing like tiny falling stars. He wondered for a moment if the universe was trying to tell him something. Maybe he wasn't meant to find love the traditional way. These failed dates were signs that he needed to stop looking. But he had tried stopping before, and the loneliness had felt heavier. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, trying to disguise the hurt as simple disappointment. The restaurant's soft Christmas music played overhead, a cheerful melody that contrasted cruelly with the heaviness in his chest. He didn't want to be dramatic. He wasn't heartbroken, just tired of being the guy who always showed up, only to be left sitting alone. When the door opened again, he didn't look. He had stopped expecting and stopped hoping. But the thing about life is that it rarely warns you when everything is about to shift. It never flashes signs that say this is the moment things are about to change. It just happens quietly, naturally, the way a single snowflake can fall unnoticed until it becomes part of a blizzard. Christopher reached for his coat, ready to end the night and accept defeat, when a sudden spark of movement approached from his left. A server stepped into his periphery, and although he didn't know it yet, the entire trajectory of his life was about to bend around that single, simple moment. Because before he could stand, someone was already walking toward his table. Someone who would not only change this night, but every night after. Christopher had barely pushed his chair back when a soft jingle cut through the quiet fog of his thoughts. Not the restaurant music, not cutlery, something lighter, brighter, almost playful, a small bell. He looked up and saw her approaching, weaving through the tables with the easy confidence of someone who knew every inch of the room. A waitress. Brown hair tied loosely, a pen tucked behind one ear, in tiny Christmas bell earrings that chimed softly each time she moved. She stopped at his table and smiled at him so warmly it felt out of place on a night like this. A smile that reached her eyes with the kind of sincerity that could not be faked. For a moment, Christopher forgot the empty chair. She glanced at the untouched water glass, the neatly arranged silverware, the candle flickering between them. Then she looked at the empty seat as if it were its own character in the scene. She let out a slow, dramatic sigh that almost made him laugh. Long night, huh? Her tone was light, almost theatrical, as if she were delivering the opening line of a comedy skit she had rehearsed. Christopher cleared his throat, embarrassed for reasons he could not fully name. Something like that. She nodded slowly, exaggerating her understanding, as if absorbing the whole tragedy of his evening. Then she tapped her notepad against her hip. So, are we waiting for someone who is fashionably late or tragically never arriving? Christopher blinked. That was blunt, honest, and somehow comforting. It is the second one. She gasped as if he had confessed to a crime. Her hand flew to her chest, and she gave him a dramatic look of heartbreak. On Christmas Eve. That should be illegal. I mean it. It should be accompanied by a fine and possibly a short period of imprisonment. The corners of his mouth lifted before he could stop them. It was the first genuine smile he had made in hours. It is not that serious. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice as if sharing privileged information. I have been watching you since 8 o'clock. You came in all hopeful, adjusted the table at least 10 times, checked your phone like it owed you money. You looked like a puppy waiting for someone to come home. He stared at her, caught between shock and amusement. You were watching me that whole time. Not watching. Monitoring. It is different. Watching is creepy. Monitoring is professional. She straightened proudly, tapping her name tag, Emma. Despite himself, he laughed. She grinned as if that had been her mission all along. Good, we are making progress. She pulled out her pen with a flourish, ready to write something on her pad, then paused. So, do you want to order, or do we pretend a little longer that mystery lawyer Madison is about to walk through the door with an apology and a dramatic story about being trapped in an elevator? He winced. He had not told her the name. She noticed immediately. Oh yes, I heard the hostess confirm the reservation earlier. Madison sounds like someone who carries a designer purse and corrects everyone's grammar. Christopher blinked again. She continued, "Let me guess. Corporate lawyer, drinks white wine, loves yoga, probably has a skincare routine that requires a spreadsheet." He could not help it. He laughed again. "How did you know all that?" She pointed the pen at him. "I am gifted. Some people talk to spirits. I read people who stand up their dates. It is useless, but it is mine." Before he could respond, she pulled out the chair across from him and sat down without asking, leaning her arms on the table. "Now tell me, why stay this long? After the second voicemail, you should have left with your dignity intact. The third call was bold. The fourth would have required a wellness check." He shook his head, amused and embarrassed in equal measure. "I was trying to give her a chance." Emma clicked her tongue as if scolding a child. "Too kind. That is your problem." She stood again, smoothing her apron. "All right, here is what we are going to do. You are going to stop staring at that empty chair like it personally offended you. You are going to order something heavy, cheesy, and comforting. And you are going to laugh at least 5 times before you leave tonight. That is my Christmas promise." He raised an eyebrow. 5 times? We already have 2. 3, if you count the tiny smile you tried to hide earlier. Emma tilted her head, studying him with that bright, perceptive expression that made it feel like she could see straight through the polished exterior he usually wore. "You know," she said softly, "most people do not wait this long, and even fewer stay polite about it. You must be a good man." Her tone shifted, growing unexpectedly gentle. "And good people should not spend Christmas Eve alone looking at an empty chair." Before he could respond, she brightened again, back to her usual spark. "Now, please let me know what you'd like to eat, and do not dare say salad. Salad on Christmas is a crime." Christopher found himself smiling without effort this time. "Ravioli, extra cheese." She snapped her fingers triumphantly. Yes, a man of culture. The bells on her earrings jingled as she turned toward the kitchen, weaving through the glowing restaurant with an energy that cut clean through the heaviness in his chest. Christopher watched her go, realizing he was no longer thinking about Madison or the empty chair. He was thinking about the waitress whose laugh sounded brighter than Christmas lights and whose presence made the whole night feel a little less empty. Emma returned with a basket of warm bread balanced on one hand, as if she had practiced the move in front of a mirror until it became a performance. She placed it on the table with a dramatic flourish, as if presenting a masterpiece. "Complimentary appetizer," she announced proudly. "Well, technically, it is a charity appetizer because I convinced the chef you were having the worst night ever." Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "I may have mentioned to him that your goldfish died." Christopher choked on a laugh. "My goldfish? Yes, tragic loss, very emotional." She nodded solemnly as if mourning a fictional fish. "But it worked. He gave me free bread with zero hesitation." He laughed again, harder this time. "That makes 4, she said, tapping the table lightly. "One more and my Christmas Eve mission with you is complete." Emma then pulled out a chair and sat down again without waiting for permission. There were still a few customers left in the restaurant, but her ease suggested she had mastered the art of slipping minutes into her shift, as if time itself had agreed to bend around her. "So tell me," she said, resting her chin on her hand, "why are you on a blind date marathon? 7 dates in 2 weeks. That is either brave or slightly concerning." Christopher exhaled slowly. It sounded even more ridiculous when she said it out loud. "My family keeps insisting someone should be with me for the holidays. I wanted this Christmas to be different." "Different can be good," Emma said softly. Then her tone shifted instantly back to a cheerful, inquisitive mode. "Okay, rapid fire. Why did the other dates fail? I want the whole disaster saga." He rubbed the bridge of his nose but ended up smiling despite himself. "You really want to know?" Emma leaned forward like a kid waiting for a bedtime story. "I live for terrible date stories. They feed my soul." "Fine," he said. "The first cried about her ex for the entire evening. Classic." Emma nodded, a timeless disaster. "The second ordered the most expensive food on the menu and then said she felt no chemistry. Low blow." Continue. The third brought a dog hidden in her purse. Emma gasped. In her purse. A tiny poodle. Emma slapped the table, laughing hard enough to draw glances. That is gold. Chef's kiss storytelling right there. The fourth spent the entire night on her phone. The fifth mistook me for someone else and walked out. The sixth asked to borrow $300 before we even ordered. Emma froze for a full second, then burst into laughter so intense she had to wipe tears from her eyes. Christopher, you are like a one-person dating apocalypse. He covered his face with one hand, but he was laughing too. Yeah, it was not great. Emma lowered her voice, but her eyes stayed bright. You know what I see though? Not the disasters. I see someone who keeps trying. Someone who has hope, even when the universe keeps throwing banana peels under their feet. That is beautiful. He felt her words settle somewhere deep inside him. She said them casually, but they reached a place no one had touched in a long time. Before he could reply, she stood up abruptly. Stay right there. Your food is coming, and I bullied the chef into adding extra cheese, like scientifically unsafe amounts of cheese. When she returned with the plate, the smell alone was enough to make him close his eyes for a moment. She set the dish down proudly. Behold the ravioli that will heal your soul. He took a bite, and she watched him with exaggerated suspense. Well, she demanded. It is excellent, he admitted. Emma punched the air triumphantly. Yes, the chef will live another day. As he continued eating, she passed by his table a few more times, delivering quick comments as if she could not help but be drawn back to him. Checking on you, she said. That is my job. Also, that guy at table 5 is jealous of your cheese mountain. Each interruption made him laugh. She seemed to spring energy into every corner of the room, turning something ordinary into something alive. When he finished, she returned with a massive slice of tiramisu. This is dessert therapy, also complimentary. She leaned in and whispered, I told the chef today is your birthday. He stared at her speechless. You did not. I did, and he sang. Loudly. In Italian. You are welcome. He tried to glare at her, but the smile kept breaking through. You are unbelievable. I get that a lot. She sat across from him again, her voice dropping to something gentler. You look better now. Happier. When you came in, you looked like a stock market chart crashing. I felt that way too, he admitted quietly. She reached over and nudged his hand just slightly, a friendly gesture but somehow more. Good, because no one should spend Christmas Eve sad, not on my watch. They talked until the restaurant grew quieter and the kitchen lights dimmed. Emma told childhood stories that made him laugh so hard he nearly cried, and Christopher listened to her as if the entire world had narrowed to the spot where she sat. Something about her energy was impossible to resist. When he finally asked for the check, she placed it in front of him with a triumphant grin. Special discount for being abandoned on a date. New policy, fully approved by me. He looked up at her, surprisingly reluctant to leave. Thank you, Emma, for everything tonight. She softened, the playful spark replaced for a moment by something sincere and unexpectedly tender. That is what I am here for, to serve food and comfort those in need on Christmas Eve. 2 for 1 special. She stepped back, her earrings chiming. And Christopher, yes, some woman out there is going to be very lucky to have you. He felt the words more than he heard them, warm, quiet, hopeful. As she walked away, he realized his night had entirely changed because of one unexpected person with jingle bell earrings and a heart louder than the whole restaurant. Christopher was finishing the last bite of tiramisu when Emma appeared beside him so quickly he almost dropped his fork. It was as if she sensed the exact moment he was ready to leave and rushed over to intercept him. Leaving already? She asked, leaning one elbow on the table like they had been friends for years. The night is still young, and by young, I mean barely holding itself together. She placed the check down with a dramatic flourish, then whispered with a grin, I added a special discount. It is for customers who get abandoned on dates and still manage to look this charming afterward. He looked at the bill, then at her. Emma, you cannot keep doing this. You are going to get in trouble. Her eyebrows rose with playful confidence. Only if I get caught, and I never get caught. Besides, I may have convinced the manager that you are a food critic." She shrugged as if that were completely normal. He panicked so fast he nearly knocked over a tray of glasses. Honestly, it was spectacular. Christopher shook his head, unable to stop smiling. "You are in trouble." "I prefer the term creative problem solver," she corrected, then sat across from him again, hands tucked under her chin. "So now that you are officially fed, emotionally stabilized, and cheese-healed, what are you doing tomorrow for Christmas?" He hesitated. "Probably staying home and watching a movie, eating popcorn, and trying not to think about the last 2 weeks of failed dates." Emma stared at him as if he had confessed something tragic. "No, absolutely not. That is an illegal, depressing level. Christopher, you cannot spend Christmas alone eating popcorn. Do you know what happens when people eat popcorn while sad? It burns. Every single time. Science." He laughed, shaking his head. "It is not a crime to be alone." "Yes, it is. On Christmas, it is a crime. And since I run my life by ridiculous rules, here is what we are going to do." She slapped the table softly. "You are coming to my house tomorrow." He blinked. "Your house?" Her smile widened as though she had been waiting for the moment he asked. "Yes, my house. Christmas dinner. My mom, Carol, will feed you until you can no longer walk. My sister Lily will attempt to teach you video games and fail. And I will keep you laughing the entire night." Christopher looked stunned. "Emma, you barely know me." She shrugged gently. "And yet you seem like someone who needs to be around people who actually care. Plus, you survived my jokes for 2 hours straight. That means something." He opened his mouth to protest again, but she reached into her apron, grabbed a napkin, scribbled something on it, and slid it across the table. Her handwriting curved and dipped in a slightly chaotic way, perfectly matching her personality. "This is my address, 6 o'clock. Dress however you want, even pajamas. I will not judge." He stared at the napkin as though it were an invitation to another world. Emma waited, her eyes sparkling with a strange mix of excitement and hope. Christopher finally spoke softly. "You are serious about this?" "Dead serious. And just so you know, my family will adore you. My mom loves meeting new people. My sister collects chaos. You fit right in." He laughed, but emotion pricked his chest. No one had invited him to a family Christmas in years. Not genuinely. Not warmly. Not like this. She suddenly grew a bit shy, looking away for a second before meeting his eyes again. "Additionally, I don't want you spending Christmas alone. You deserve better than that." Christopher swallowed, unexpectedly touched. "Emma, I do not want to impose." "You are not imposing. You were invited. That is the opposite." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "And for the record, the moment you walked into this restaurant tonight, you were officially my responsibility." He raised an eyebrow. "Your responsibility?" "Absolutely. I found you abandoned and tragic, like a lost puppy, but a fancy one in an expensive coat. I had to adopt you." He laughed again, and she beamed triumphantly. "That is the last laugh I needed. 5 out of 5 accomplished. I am unbeatable." They walked toward the exit together. She pushed the door open, cold air sweeping in. He hesitated on the threshold. "Emma, are you sure?" She turned to him, the streetlights catching the tiny bells on her earrings. They chimed softly as she smiled. "Christopher, if you do not show up tomorrow, I will assume you got kidnapped by aliens, and even then, I will expect a text." He chuckled, tucked the napkin into his coat pocket, and nodded. "All right, I will come." Her face lit up with genuine joy. "Good, because something tells me tomorrow might be precisely what you need." He stepped outside, the snow falling gently. She stood inside the doorway, waving both hands dramatically through the glass. As he walked toward his car, the night did not feel cold anymore. His disappointment had faded into something warm, something fragile, something new. Hope. Hope brought by a waitress with jingling earrings, wild energy, and the kindest heart he had ever encountered. He opened his car door, looked at the napkin again, and smiled. Tomorrow would not be lonely. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow would be the beginning of something unexpected. Christopher spent most of Christmas Day pacing his apartment like a man preparing for a job interview he desperately wanted to pass. He checked his reflection too many times, adjusted his shirt, changed it again, and eventually returned to the first one. Nothing looked right. Everything felt too formal, too casual, or too obviously someone trying too hard. But at 5:15, he finally stepped into the cold Chicago air, wearing a light blue shirt and a gray sweater, holding a bottle of wine he hoped was neither too fancy nor too cheap. As he drove through the quiet neighborhood of Maple Street, the houses glowed with warm lights and plastic snowmen waving cheerfully in the yards. Number 423 stood out with colorful bulbs blinking around the porch and a giant inflatable snowman leaning slightly to one side, like it had given up halfway through December. He sat in his car for a full minute, breathing slowly, convincing himself he had not completely lost his mind. Then the door burst open before he even reached for the bell. Emma appeared with the enthusiasm of someone welcoming a long-lost friend, her red sweater blazing bright and her reindeer antlers lighting up as she moved. "You came," she shouted, sounding victorious. "I told my mom you would. She said you would bail, but I was right. Look at that." Christopher held out the bottle with an awkward laugh. "I brought wine." Emma accepted it as if he had handed her treasure. "This has a French name." "Oh my gosh, my mom is going to lose her mind. Come in before she sees you through the window and tackles you." The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey. The living room was cozy, filled with handmade decorations and a Christmas tree overloaded with mismatched ornaments that looked as though they had been collected over the decades. "Mom, Lily, he is here," Emma called out. Carol appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron that proudly declared, "Santa is my co-pilot." She had a warm smile that matched her daughter's energy and immediately pulled Christopher into a hug before he could even greet her. "Emma has told us a great deal about you, and look at you, so polite, so handsome. 1,000 times better than Trevor." "Mom," Emma groaned. "Please, too late." A teenager with short blonde hair trotted in, wearing a Grinch sweater and holding 3 cookies in one hand. "This?" Lily asked, squinting at him like a detective. "He looks normal. Why didn't Madison show up?" "Lily," Emma snapped. "That isn't nice. Why is it a real question?" Christopher laughed, strangely comforted by the raw honesty in this household. "Nice to meet you, Lily." She pointed a cookie at him. "Wow, he is polite." "You brought home a unicorn, Emma." Carol swatted her with a kitchen towel. "Stop interrogating him and offer him something to drink." Christopher accepted a soda and sat on the soft, slightly sagging couch. A large orange cat immediately jumped into his lap and stared at him with ancient judgment. "Oh, good," Emma said. "Mr. Whiskers has chosen you. That is basically a blessing from the king." The cat purred loudly, finally closing his eyes. In the kitchen, Emma guided him through the chaos. Carol was humming loudly as she basted the turkey. Lily snatched cookies and denied that she was. The Christmas lights flickered unevenly above them. It felt messy, loud, warm in a way he had not felt in years. "Careful with that dish," Emma warned, while Christopher picked up a bowl of mashed potatoes. "It is hot, and if you burn yourself, my mom will blame me." They moved around the kitchen like an accidental dance, bumping elbows, laughing when they nearly dropped something. Christopher could not remember the last time he felt so comfortable so quickly. When everyone sat at the table, Carol cheerfully demanded the annual Christmas gratitude tradition. Each person had to say one thing they were grateful for. Carol began, "I am grateful for my daughters, even the one who almost set the kitchen on fire making popcorn last week." That was one time Emma protested, and the fire was small. Lily proudly declared that she was grateful to have finally passed her driving test on her 5th try. "Everyone is counting," Emma muttered. Emma's turn came next. She looked around the table, softer now. "I am grateful for this chaotic family, my job, and meeting new people who remind me that everyone deserves a second chance." Carol fanned her eyes dramatically. Oh, now look at that emotional ambush. Christopher cleared his throat when everyone turned to him. I am grateful I am not spending Christmas alone, and thankful for meeting all of you. Carol let out another emotional gasp. Oh, he is sweet. We are keeping him. Dinner was loud and hilarious. Story after story, laughter spilling over the table. Emma stealing food from Lily's plate. Lily scolding her. Carol telling embarrassing childhood tales. Christopher found himself laughing so much his cheeks hurt. After dinner, Lily set up the video game console and declared the annual Mario Kart tournament officially on. Christopher had never played before and immediately crashed off every virtual cliff possible, while Emma cackled and Lily shouted instructions like a coach in a championship. By the time dessert was served, every nervous thought he had carried into this house had melted into something warm, something light. Later that night, after Carol and Lily had headed upstairs and the house had grown quiet, Christopher and Emma sat together in the soft glow of the Christmas tree. Mr. Whiskers snored on his lap again. "Thank you for coming," Emma said softly, curling up on the couch. "I know it was wild to invite a stranger, but I am happy you came." He looked at her, marveling at how different he felt compared to just 24 hours earlier. "So am I," he said. She smiled, small and genuine. And somewhere between the flickering lights and the soft weight of the cat, he realized he was no longer thinking about the disastrous date that never happened. He was thinking about Emma. The living room glowed softly with the last strands of Christmas lights, still twinkling even as midnight settled over the quiet neighborhood. Emma sat curled into the corner of the couch, her legs tucked under her, her Christmas bell earrings resting gently against her neck. Christopher sat beside her, Mr. Whiskers sprawled across his lap like a purring orange weight that refused to move. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The warmth of the room, the leftovers of laughter, and the comfortable silence all wove together into something tender and unexpectedly intimate. It felt like the calm after a beautiful storm. Emma finally broke the silence with a soft laugh. "You know what is wild?" she asked. "Yesterday, you walked into that restaurant looking like someone stole your soul, and now you are sitting here on my couch with my cat, acting like you two are in a committed relationship." Christopher glanced down at Mr. Whiskers, now snoring loudly. "I think he likes me." "He likes your sweater," Emma corrected. "It is soft. You are a bonus." He laughed, and she pretended to mark something in the air. "That is laugh number 6. I am breaking my own record." Her playful tone softened. "I am glad you came tonight. Really, it means a lot." He turned toward her, studying the way her expression shifted between mischief and sincerity. Emma had a gift for lighting up a room while also grounding it. "I should be thanking you," Christopher said. "You and your family made me feel like I belonged tonight. That has not happened in a long time." Emma looked down, brushing a stray thread on the sofa. "You would be surprised how many people feel that way. Holidays make the lonely parts think louder. That is why we celebrate Christmas. My mom always says the table is never full until someone new joins us." He smiled at that. "She is wonderful." "She absolutely is," Emma said proudly. "Chaotic, emotional, overly dramatic, but wonderful." Their eyes met again, and something unspoken flickered between them, as warm as the glow of the lights on the tree. Emma suddenly sat up straighter. "Oh, before I forget, I need to tell you something. Very important. Life-changing." She pointed a finger at him with mock seriousness. "If you ever hurt my mom's feelings, she will chase you with a Christmas pie." Christopher nearly choked on his laughter. "That sounds dangerous. You have no idea. She once threw a pie at a UPS driver because she thought he had stolen her package. Turns out it was in the backyard the whole time." He rubbed his forehead, still laughing. "That poor man." "He survived," Emma said proudly. "Carol's rage is powerful, but her aim is questionable." They shared another quiet laugh before she spoke again, softer this time. "But really, my mom already adores you. And Lily too. And the cats. You made it through all 3 levels. That is rare." He felt a subtle shift inside him, like something in his chest eased for the first time in years. "Emma," he began. She turned toward him fully, her attention and openness evident. "Thank you. Not just for tonight. For last night too. for making me laugh when I needed it most." She blinked, her expression softening even more. "You do not need to thank me. I just did what anyone would do." "No," he shook his head gently. "Most people would not have sat down with a stranger, made them laugh, and invited them to their Christmas celebration. You did. That means something." She swallowed, clearly moved. "I did what felt right. And you looked like someone who needed a win." He smiled softly. "Maybe I did." Silence settled again, but this time it was warm, expectant, alive. Emma shifted on the couch, her knee brushing his leg. "We could hang out again when I am not working. Or when you are not being stood up by someone named Madison." He chuckled. "I would like that." She grinned, relieved. "Good, because I am off tomorrow night and there is an ice cream place that stays open until midnight. They have an apple pie flavor that tastes like magic." "Ice cream, tomorrow night, in winter?" He raised an eyebrow. "Ice cream has no season," Emma declared with absolute conviction. "Only cowards refuse ice cream in the cold." He laughed again, and she mentally celebrated another point. Christopher glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight. "I should go." Emma stood as he gently lifted Mr. Whiskers off his lap. The cat made a noise of profound betrayal and stomped away. She walked him to the door, her steps slower now. When he turned to face her, she looked at him with a softness he had not seen earlier. "Thank you for coming," she said again, quieter. He nodded. "Thank you for inviting me." She hesitated, biting her lip, then reached up on instinct and brushed his sleeve lightly, as if grounding herself. "Drive safely, okay? Text me when you get home, so I know you didn't freeze on the way." "I will keep my promise." He stepped outside into the cold, but before he could take more than 2 steps, the door opened again. "Christopher." He turned. Emma stood there in the doorway, illuminated by the warm light behind her, her breath visible in the winter air. "This was the best Christmas I have ever had," she whispered. He felt something in him melt. "Me too." She smiled, small and genuine, and closed the door gently. As he walked to his car, snow drifting softly around him, Christopher realized something undeniable. Somewhere between last night's disaster and tonight's warmth, he had started falling for the girl with the jingle bell earrings and a heart that shone brighter than any Christmas light. Christopher woke up the morning after Christmas with a strange and unfamiliar sensation spreading through his chest. It took him a few seconds to identify it. Happiness. Actual, honest, unfiltered happiness. He picked up his phone and saw 3 messages from Emma sent at nearly 3 in the morning. "Okay, I cannot sleep. What if you only said you wanted to see me again to be polite? Ignore that. You are probably sleeping. I hope. Good night for real this time." Christopher smiled and typed a simple message in response. "Good morning. And yes, I want to see you. I meant it. When do you finish work tonight?" The reply came almost instantly. "You are awake. I finish at 10. Why can I pick you up? We could get coffee or something. At 10 at night, coffee okay, ice cream, Chinese food, or anything else. I want to see you." There was a pause. Then, "Okay, that was adorable. Yes, get me. But you have to promise not to judge my exhausted face." "I promise. See you at 10. Emma sent one more message. My mom just saw our texts over my shoulder and yelled, "I knew it. Help." Christopher laughed out loud in his empty apartment, surprised at how light everything felt around him. He tried reading. He tried watching a movie. He tried working. Nothing stuck. His mind kept drifting back to her laugh, her energy, her chaos, her warmth. By 9:45, he was already parked outside the restaurant. He told himself he should wait until exactly 10, so he would not seem too eager. But his heart did not care about appearing calm. He watched the windows and could recognize Emma immediately by the way she moved. Animated, expressive, as if she talked with her whole body. At precisely 10, she stepped out through the back door wearing a giant red coat and carrying her backpack. She climbed into the passenger seat and exhaled dramatically. "You came early. I saw you lurking out here," she teased. "I was not lurking. I was waiting patiently." She snorted. "Sure, patiently, like a kid waiting for Christmas presents. He grinned. Maybe. She switched into more comfortable shoes and stretched her legs with a groan. My feet are dead. There was a wedding at the restaurant today. 150 people. I walked 20 miles. Do you want to go home and rest? We can do this another day. Absolutely not. I have been thinking about this date all day. I am getting ice cream even if my legs fall off. He smiled. Ice cream at 10:30 in winter? Ice cream has no rules, Emma replied without hesitation. It is universal joy. The shop they visited was small and warm, lit with soft yellow lights and decorated with chalkboard drawings. Emma greeted the worker behind the counter like an old friend. Kevin met Christopher. Christopher met Kevin. Kevin knows all my flaws because I come here every week and eat more samples than legally allowed. Kevin laughed. She is not exaggerating. She always tries the same flavors. Quality control, Emma said proudly as she sampled another spoonful. Christopher chose chocolate, while she built a Frankenstein combination of apple pie and salted caramel, declaring it the best mix known to humankind. They sat by the window as snow drifted outside. Emma ate her ice cream with enthusiasm, somehow making the moment feel like an adventure instead of a simple dessert. So tell me, she said between bites, how was your day without me causing chaos? Boring. I spent the whole day waiting to see you. Emma froze mid-bite. You cannot say things like that. My heart is small. It cannot handle it. He laughed. It is true. She covered her face briefly before peeking at him through her fingers. Okay, my turn. My day was wild. The bride at the wedding tonight brought a ruler to measure the cake slices. A ruler, Christopher. Who does that? Someone very organized. Someone very unhinged, Emma corrected. They talked for over an hour, their conversation bouncing seamlessly from ridiculous stories to quiet confessions. Time slipped by so gently that when Kevin flipped the sign to closed, they both stared in disbelief. Emma already said, checking her phone, "It is 11:30. That felt like 20 minutes." In the car on the drive home, the world outside was silent. Emma fidgeted with the zipper of her coat, then turned to him with an expression both vulnerable and brave. Christopher, why do you like me? I mean, you are successful and calm and collected, and I am just a waitress who talks too much and accidentally knocks over things. He looked at her carefully, choosing his words. First, you are not just anything. You are incredible. You are genuine. You do not pretend to be someone else. You are honest in a way most people are scared to be. And second, you make everything feel lighter. I like being around you. That is enough. Her eyes softened, shimmering in the passing streetlights. You cannot say things like that. I will melt. When they reached her house, she opened the door halfway, then hesitated. She leaned in and gave him a quick kiss on the cheek, her face bright red as she pulled back. There, now I will not spend all night wondering if I should have done that. Good night. Before he could react, she practically sprinted to her door. But once inside, she peeked through the window curtains. When she saw him still sitting in the car, touching the cheek she kissed, she waved frantically for him to go home before she died of embarrassment. As he drove away, his phone buzzed. Okay, I am officially not sleeping tonight. Why do you say things that make my heart explode? Good night again, he replied without thinking. I am not perfect, but with you, I want to be. She responded 3 seconds later. Stop saying things like that. My mom heard me scream again. She wants details. Send help. Christopher laughed in the darkness, exhilarated in a way he had not felt since he was young. And for the first time in a long time, his future felt bright. Because Emma was in it. The days that followed slipped into a rhythm so gentle and unexpected that Christopher often caught himself smiling at random moments, as if his entire life had shifted without warning. Emma had a way of doing that, turning ordinary moments into something warm, something bright, and something unforgettable. 3 days after their first late-night ice cream date, they found themselves walking through Millennium Park. The sky was a pale winter blue, flakes drifting lazily through the air like feathers shaken from a pillow. Emma wore a yellow scarf that made her stand out against the snowy backdrop. Christopher kept stealing glances, marveling at how someone could make winter look like a painting. "You are staring," she said without looking at him. "You think I cannot feel it, but I can. It is like sunshine on my face." He smiled. "Maybe I am staring." Emma kicked a pile of snow at him, immediately regretting it as flakes blew back into her face. "That is what I get for trying to be cute. Nature hates me." They wandered toward the skating rink, where people of all ages wobbled, spun, and screamed across the ice. Emma stopped at the edge and gasped dramatically, "We should skate." Christopher lifted his eyebrows. "Have you skated before?" "Absolutely not, but it looks easy." He laughed. "That is what everyone says right before a disaster." She nudged him with her elbow. "Then you will have to catch me." And he did. Repeatedly. Because the moment Emma stepped onto the ice, she lost all sense of balance. She clung to Christopher as if he were her only lifeline. Emma let out a shriek as her foot slid sideways. "Why is this so slippery?" she yelled, gripping his arm. "Who invented ice? This was a terrible idea." He steadied her, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. "Let go of my jacket. You are choking me." "Then stop laughing and help me get on the ice. You are not skating. You are just surviving." Eventually, he guided her in small circles. She clutched his hand like it was the only stable thing in the universe. At one point, she lost her balance entirely and crashed into him, sending them both into a snowbank. She lay there blinking at the sky as snowflakes landed on her eyelashes. "If anyone asks, I meant to do that." Christopher could not stop laughing. "You are ridiculous." "Ridiculously charming," Emma corrected. "There is a difference." They ended up staying there for another hour, mostly sitting in the snow, talking about everything and nothing. Emma told him about growing up in a loud house where privacy was non-existent, how she loved painting, but only had time to do it on weekends, how she dreamed of one day opening a cafe that doubled as an art studio. Christopher told her about his childhood, spent moving from city to city because of his father's job. He always felt a step behind everyone else. How success never felt like enough because he never had someone to share it with. Emma listened with her whole face, her expression softening as he spoke. She did not interrupt. She understood. At sunset, they went to a small bakery Emma adored. It was tucked between two old brick buildings, the windows fogged from the warmth inside. Emma pressed her hands against the glass. "They have the best hot chocolate. Thick, creamy, the kind that fixes trauma." She ordered for both of them, adding extra whipped cream to hers. When the cups were set on the table, she clapped like a child. "Look at this beauty." "You get excited about everything," he teased. "Life is better when you celebrate the small things," she replied. "Watch, this whipped cream swirl deserves applause." He shook his head, delighted. "You really are something else." She leaned forward, cupping her hands around the warm mug. "I like being something else to you." There it was again, the quiet shift in his chest. Warmth spread slowly, pulling him toward her. Later that night, they walked to her house. The neighborhood was lined with twinkling lights still clinging to their holiday charm. Emma paused under a street lamp, snow settling on her hair. "I had fun today," she said, "the kind of fun that sticks." "Me too," Christopher replied softly. She studied him for a moment, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. Then she stepped closer, close enough for him to feel the warmth of her body despite the cold. "Can I ask you something?" she whispered. "Anything. Do you feel it too?" He blinked. "Feel what?" "This," she said, motioning between them. "This thing that is happening. It feels like something substantial." He nodded slowly. "I feel it." Emma exhaled, relieved. "Good. Then I am not crazy, not even a little." She smiled shyly, then rose onto her toes and pressed a soft kiss to his mouth. A kiss that was gentle and hesitant and perfect in every way. When she pulled back, she whispered one more sentence before dashing toward her door. "Good, because I am falling for you." Christopher stood frozen in the quiet street long after she disappeared inside. Snowflakes drifted down around him, catching the glow of the street lamp. And for the first time in his life, he felt the future unfolding in front of him, not as something he planned, but as something he wanted because Emma was in it. The new year crept closer with a quiet kind of magic, the kind that settles into the bones before a person even notices. For Christopher, the days with Emma felt like a dream he was terrified to wake from. Every late-night call, every spontaneous adventure, every laugh that erupted from her without warning made the world feel brighter than he had ever known it. But with the new year came something else, a family tradition he had never broken. At the end of every December, the Blackwell family flew to Miami for a week. Sunlight, salt air, white linen dinners, polished social gatherings where everyone spoke in soft voices and engaged in polite conversation, often disguising their judgment. It was a world Emma had never seen, a world Christopher had never wanted to bring anyone into. Until now. Until her. He thought about the invitation for 2 days before finally working up the courage to ask. The fear was ridiculous, he knew that, yet it clung to him like cold air. What if she said no? What if she said yes? What if bringing her into his world scared her away? On the evening he decided to do it, he picked her up from work. The moment she slid into the car, she tossed her apron into the back like she was erasing the memory of her shift. "I almost dropped a lasagna on my manager today," she announced proudly. "The top 5 dramatic moments of my life." Christopher laughed, but his nerves twisted inside him. Emma noticed instantly. Her eyes narrowed and she leaned closer. "Okay, something is wrong. Your face is doing that tight thing. Are you okay?" He exhaled. "I have something I'd like to ask you." Her eyebrows rose. "Am I in trouble?" "No, God no. Then what is it?" He pulled the car into a quiet spot near the lake, the city lights reflecting across the dark water. Emma waited patiently, her playful energy replaced with something softer. "My family goes to Miami every year for New Year's week. It is a long tradition. Dinners, events, all of it." She nodded slowly. "Okay. And this year, please come with me." Emma froze, her breath caught. For a second, she didn't blink, didn't move. "Me," she whispered. "Yes, you." She stared at him as if trying to determine whether he was joking. Her voice wavered when she finally spoke. "Christopher, that is huge. I mean, Miami, your family, your fancy family. This is not like going to get ice cream." He winced. I know it is a lot. It could be too much. If you do not want to, it is completely fine." She shook her head quickly. "No, it is not that I do not want to go. I just..." She pulled her knees to her chest, arms wrapping around them. "I do not fit in with people like that. I am a waitress who once set a microwave on fire." He moved closer. "Emma, stop. You are amazing. My family will adore you." She let out a breathy laugh. "I doubt that." "I do not," he said firmly, "and I want you there with me. I want to start the new year with you." Emma looked at him for a long time, her expression torn between excitement and fear. Finally, she whispered, almost too softly to hear, "Okay, I will go." A weight Christopher did not realize he had been carrying lifted instantly. He exhaled with visible relief. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I am scared, but yes." He took her hand gently and she squeezed back. The next day, however, the panic truly set in. Emma spread half her wardrobe across her bed, staring at the chaos like it held the answers to her anxiety. Her mother sat in the doorway, sipping tea, while Lily sprawled on the carpet, giving fashion advice with the confidence of someone who never dressed above sweatpants. "How fancy are these dinners?" Lily asked, holding up a dress Emma had not worn in 3 years. "On a scale from 1 to the Queen of England," Carol gasped. "He asked you to spend an entire week with his family. That boy is serious." "He is serious about marriage." Emma threw a pillow at her. "Stop, you are making me more nervous." Meanwhile, at his penthouse, Christopher endured his own interrogation. His brother Daniel paced the living room, arms crossed. "You are bringing a girl." "Yes." "To Miami." "Yes." "To meet the family." "Yes, Daniel, please stop repeating it." Daniel smirked. "She must be special." Christopher's voice softened. "She is." When Emma finally stepped into the terminal 2 days later, dragging a suitcase that looked one tantrum away from bursting open, Christopher felt his heart lift. She wore a simple white dress with a denim jacket, hair pinned back with tiny pearl clips. She looked nervous, but she also looked beautiful. He walked straight to her, relieved she was there. "You made it." Emma exhaled shakily. "Barely. I almost turned back 3 times. But you didn't. Because I want to be with you," she said softly, "even when it terrifies me." He wrapped an arm around her and guided her toward the gate. The plane ride was filled with her quiet panic, his gentle reassurance, and her asking approximately 50 times if she looked like someone his family wouldn't hate. Then came Miami. The warmth, the ocean breeze, the glittering skyline, and his world. As they walked through the bright, open lobby of the hotel where his family stayed every year, Emma tightened her grip on his arm. Christopher leaned down, whispering against her temple, "You belong with me. Do not forget that." But the moment his mother turned around in the grand lounge, perfectly poised and elegant, Emma's breath caught again, because the real test was only beginning. The lobby glowed with soft gold lighting that reflected off the marble floors and towering glass windows overlooking the Miami shoreline. The Blackwell family's traditional New Year retreat was everything Emma had expected from Christopher's world. Elegant, quiet, polished, intimidating. She tried to breathe normally as she walked beside him, but her heart thudded loudly in her chest. Her dress suddenly felt too simple. Her hair is too messy. Her shoes are too inexpensive. Christopher sensed the shift and brushed his thumb gently across the back of her hand. "You are okay, I promise." Before she could answer, a poised woman in a fitted pastel dress turned toward them. Her steps were graceful. Her smile was soft but controlled. There was no doubt who she was, Christopher's mother. Her eyes warmed instantly when she saw her son, and she reached out to hug him. "You made it. I was starting to think you would miss the welcome gathering." Then her gaze shifted to Emma, curious, polite, assessing. "And this must be the young woman you mentioned." Emma nearly forgot how to speak. She forced a smile. "Hi, I am Emma. It's lovely to meet you." Mrs. Blackwell took her hand gently. "Welcome, dear. We are happy to have you join us." Her tone was gracious, but there was a weight beneath it, a calculation, a silent question. Christopher stepped closer to Emma. "Mom, Emma is very special to me." Something flickered in his mother's expression. Surprise, perhaps, or concern. But she masked it quickly. "Well then," she said warmly, "we should get you settled in. Everyone is eager to meet you." Everyone meant extended family, aunts, uncles, wealthy acquaintances. People who had known Christopher since childhood believed they knew the kind of woman he should end up with. Emma swallowed hard as they entered the private lounge. Conversations paused, heads turned. Curious eyes landed on her. Christopher leaned down and whispered, "You are doing perfectly." She whispered back, "You have known me long enough to know that is a lie." He smiled, a real one, the kind that made her shoulders drop just a little. As they made their way through the room, he introduced her to everyone. Important names, important faces, smiles that did not quite reach their eyes, compliments wrapped in mild surprise. "You work in hospitality. How lovely. How hardworking. How admirable." Emma nodded politely, her cheeks burning. She could feel the quiet assumptions hanging in the air, invisible but unmistakable. But then someone unexpected stepped forward. Christopher's grandmother. A tiny woman with bright blue eyes and silver hair pulled into a soft bun. She took Emma's hands gently and said, "Oh my goodness, you are adorable. Christopher told me you rescued him on Christmas Eve." Emma blinked. Well, kind of." The grandmother laughed. "Anyone who feeds my grandson extra cheese is my kind of girl." Christopher groaned. "Grandma, please." But Emma relaxed for the first time since arriving. The older woman squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Do not let these polished people intimidate you, dear. They spend half their lives pretending they are not exhausted." Emma grinned, instantly feeling lighter. Later that evening, they stepped onto the balcony overlooking the ocean. The breeze warmed despite the calendar insisting it was still winter. The moon hung low, sparkling across the waves. Emma leaned against the railing, finally able to exhale. "Your family is intense." Christopher chuckled. "They can be. I am sorry if it overwhelmed you." "I did not say overwhelmed," she whispered, glancing at him. "I said intense." He looked at her with quiet admiration. "I am proud of you." "Proud of me?" she asked. "For what?" "For stepping into my world, even when it scared you. For being yourself in a place where everyone tries to be someone else." She felt her cheeks warm. "Do you really think they liked me?" "I know they did, and if they do not, I do. Enough for both of us." A soft silence fell between them. Not heavy, not awkward, just full. Then she nudged his arm. "Your grandmother is my favorite." "Of course she is. She likes chaos." Emma gasped dramatically. "Are you calling me chaos?" Christopher smiled. "You are the most beautiful chaos I have ever seen." Emma covered her face. "Why do you say things like that? You are making it impossible not to fall for you." He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Then do not fight it. I am not." Her breath caught. "Christopher." He cupped her face gently, his touch warm and steady. "I love you, Emma. I realized it the moment you handed me free tiramisu." She let out a shaky laugh. "That is when you knew. Yes, that was my turning point." She shook her head, smiling through the sudden sting of emotion. "I love you too." He leaned in, and they kissed under the soft glow of the balcony lights, the ocean stretching endlessly behind them. It was gentle at first, then deeper, their hands finding each other like they had been searching for far too long. When they finally pulled apart, Emma whispered, "You know, this is the part in the movies where something dramatic happens." Christopher laughed. "Well, hopefully not tonight." But as they walked back inside, hand in hand, the weight of his mother's gaze lingered in the air. Not unkind, not hostile, but cautious, thoughtful. She saw the connection between her son and this unexpected girl with bright eyes and a quick laugh. And she knew one thing for sure: if Emma stayed, everything in the Blackwell family was about to change. The night air shimmered with the soft glow of lanterns scattered across the Blackwell estate. Music drifted through open doors, blending with the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. Inside, the New Year's Eve celebration was reaching its brightest point. Laughter, clinking glasses, and elegant chatter filled every hallway of the home. Yet as midnight approached, Christopher found himself searching for only one person. He spotted Emma near the buffet table, studying a tray of delicate pastries as if they held the secrets of the universe. Her fingers hovered indecisively over a chocolate tart before pulling away. "You can take two, you know," Christopher teased as he walked up behind her. She spun around, hand on her chest. "Don't sneak up on me like that. I almost knocked over an entire tower of macarons." He grinned. "That would have been entertaining. For you, maybe. I would have started the new year by indulging in luxury desserts I couldn't afford." He tilted his head, taking in the slight nervous energy radiating from her. "You okay?" She nodded a little too quickly. "Yes." "Great. Fantastic. Wonderful. Just trying not to embarrass myself in front of Miami royalty." Christopher took her hand gently. "You are doing better than you think." She looked down at their hands, then up at him, and the tension in her shoulders eased. It was always like that with him. One touch and the world stopped spinning so fast. Before either of them could say more, his mother approached. Patricia glided across the room with effortless elegance, her eyes soft but sharp. Emma felt her spine straighten automatically. "There you two are," Patricia said warmly. "We are gathering outside for the countdown. Join us." Christopher smiled. "We will be there in a moment." Patricia's gaze lingered on Emma a second longer. Her smile stayed polite, but something thoughtful flickered behind her eyes. Then she nodded and moved toward the doors leading to the patio. When she was out of earshot, Emma exhaled slowly. "Okay, be honest, she hates me." Christopher blinked. "What? No, why would you think that?" Because she looks at me as if she is trying to figure out if I am a stray cat you've rescued or a guest who wandered in by accident." He laughed softly. "She is not used to surprises, and you are the biggest, brightest one I have ever brought home." Emma swallowed, her expression softening. "Do you think she will ever actually like me?" He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "She will love you, just give her time." Emma nodded, though doubt still glimmered in her eyes. Outside, the air was warm, filled with the electric energy of anticipation. Guests gathered near the patio overlooking the ocean, some holding champagne flutes while others leaned against the railing, waiting for the fireworks. Christopher and Emma stepped out together, their hands still intertwined. Music lowered, replaced by the countdown murmurs across the crowd. As people clustered together, Emma noticed Christopher's grandmother waving her over enthusiastically. "You two stand with me. I need to ensure he doesn't hide during the countdown again." "Grandma," Christopher groaned, "that was one time." "One time too many," she teased before winking at Emma. "Now hold his hand tightly so he doesn't run." Emma laughed and squeezed Christopher's hand, feeling the warmth of his palm settle her nerves. The crowd began counting down from 30. Light chatter fizzled out. Excitement thickened in the air like glitter. Emma leaned closer to Christopher. "I never imagined ringing in the new year with you," she paused. "Or with anyone like you." He slid an arm around her waist. "I cannot imagine spending it with anyone else." 10 seconds left. The crowd voices swelled. Emma hesitated, feeling something push at her chest, something she had been holding back. Should she say it? Should she wait? Should she risk ruining the moment? 5. She turned to him fully. "Christopher." He looked down at her, eyes warm, curious. "Yes." 3. Her breath caught. She almost pulled back, nearly swallowed the words. 2. But then she remembered Christmas Eve, the empty chair, the laughter Emma had given him, the hope he had given her. 1. "I love you." The world erupted. Fireworks shot into the sky in brilliant streaks of gold and red. Cheers filled the air. Champagne corks popped. But Christopher heard nothing except the words he had been waiting for. He cupped her face gently, his smile radiant. "I love you too, Emma, more than I knew I could." She let out a shaky breath and laughed, tears shimmering behind her eyes. "You were supposed to say Happy New Year first." He pulled her close, kissing her softly as fireworks exploded behind them. "Happy New Year, Emma." "Happy New Year, Christopher." When they pulled apart, Emma rested her forehead against his. "I hope this year is good." "It will be," he whispered, "because you are in it." They stayed that way, wrapped in each other, letting the cheers fade into the background music. For the first time, Emma felt like she belonged in this glossy world, even if she was just a girl who made minimum wage, talked too fast, and wore second-hand dresses. Because Christopher chose her, and she chose him. But as the fireworks faded and the crowd dispersed, Patricia watched them quietly from the doorway. Her expression was unreadable. Not angry, not unkind, but deeply thoughtful. A mother watching her son fall in love with someone she never expected. Someone who might change the Blackwell family forever. And change, no matter how beautiful, always came with a cost. The first morning of the new year washed over Miami in soft gold, sunlight pressing through the curtains of the oceanside bedroom where Emma had barely slept. Not from discomfort, but from the overwhelming wave of emotions that had unraveled inside her the night before. Love, fear, hope, all tangled together in a way that felt as exhilarating as it did terrifying. She slipped quietly onto the balcony, letting the warm breeze brush over her skin. The ocean glimmered like a scattered handful of diamonds. She hugged her arms around herself, steadying the chaos in her chest. Behind her, the sliding door opened. Christopher stepped out barefoot, his hair tousled, his voice still heavy with sleep. "There you are. I woke up and thought I had dreamed you." She smiled softly as he wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You did not dream me. I am really here." "Good." He kissed her cheek, "because last night was the best moment of my life." Emma's stomach fluttered. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the way he said them, like a truth he carried deep in his bones. They stood like that for a long moment, listening to the waves. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Christopher, your mom looked worried last night. Not upset, just unsure." He hesitated, then exhaled slowly. "She is not worried about you. She is concerned about losing the version of me she has always known." Emma turned in his arms. "The version of you she knew is still here." He shook his head gently. The version she knew did not know how to live for anything besides work. The version she knew woke up alone, ate alone, pretended he did not need anyone because it was easier than being disappointed again. Emma swallowed, emotion catching in her chest. "I do not want to change your world, Christopher. I want to be part of it." He cupped her face. "You are not changing it, you are saving it." Before she could respond, they heard footsteps and laughter from inside. The house was waking up. Soon there would be breakfast, questions, plans, and noise. A full day ahead. Christopher kissed her once more before they stepped back inside. Later, downstairs, Patricia was already at the dining table, arranging plates as if preparing for royalty. Her eyes lifted the moment Emma walked in. "Good morning, dear. Did you sleep well?" Emma nodded. "Yes, thank you. Everything is beautiful here." Patricia's expression softened. "I am glad you feel comfortable." Christopher joined them, sliding into the seat beside Emma with an easy confidence that didn't go unnoticed. Daniel and Sophie trickled in next, both greeting Emma with genuine enthusiasm. Breakfast should have been peaceful, warm, family-like, and in many ways it was. But every so often, Emma caught Patricia watching her with a contemplative expression. Not hostile, not suspicious, just protective. Halfway through breakfast, Patricia cleared her throat. "Christopher, may I speak with you for a moment?" Christopher stiffened subtly. "Sure." They stepped to the far end of the room for a quiet conversation. Emma looked down at her plate, pretending she wasn't straining to hear. She picked up the faintest pieces. "Are you serious about this girl?" "I love her." "And what happens when the world asks questions?" "Then I will answer them." "Christopher, her life is very different." "I know, and I do not care. I only want you to be sure." Emma pushed her fork around the plate, her heart tightening with each fragmented word. A gentle hand touched her shoulder. Grandma Helen slid into the chair beside her. "Do not worry, dear. Patricia is just being a mother. It takes time for a parent to understand that their children grow up and choose their own hearts." Emma forced a small smile. "I am trying not to panic." "Good. Panic gives you wrinkles," the older woman whispered conspiratorially. Emma laughed softly, despite herself. Minutes later, Christopher returned, his expression steady, his hand reaching immediately for hers. "Everything okay?" she asked quietly. "Perfect," he said. And he meant it. The rest of the day passed gently, filled with beach walks, board games, and laughter that felt easier than it had the night before. Patricia warmed, slowly but unmistakably, watching Emma with less hesitation and more quiet curiosity. When evening fell and bags were packed for the flight back to Chicago, Patricia walked Emma to the front door. Emma paused, unsure whether to hug her or keep a respectful distance. Patricia chose to pull Emma close in a warm, surprisingly tight embrace. "Dear," she said quietly, "I have watched my son live years without light. When he called to tell me about you, it was the first time I heard joy in his voice again. So if I seemed unsure, it was not because of who you are, it was because I realized he was changing. And change is frightening, even when it is beautiful." Emma blinked back tears. "I love him, I really do. I can see that," Patricia whispered, brushing Emma's cheek, "and that is why I already consider you family." When Christopher appeared to help with bags, he saw the two women smiling at each other. A small, relieved smile lit his own face. The plane ride home was quiet and peaceful. Emma leaned her head on his shoulder, fingers laced with his. Somewhere over the dark clouds, she murmured, "Christopher, yes. Could this really last?" He kissed her hair. "Emma, this is the rest of my life we are flying toward." Her breath caught. Then she smiled softly against his chest. When they landed in Chicago, the first snowflakes of the new year floated down around them, shimmering under the airport lights like falling stars. Christopher pulled her close against the cold. "Ready for our future?" Emma nodded. "More prepared than I ever thought I would be." Hand in hand, they walked into the winter night, the glow of promise lighting every step ahead of them.